So I'm going to be completely honest, as little as even like a week ago, I didn't have massively high hopes for SuperSlam. But I have to say, coming off of this weekend's pre-releases, the set has pretty much exceeded where I thought it was going to be. So today, let's chat all things SuperSlam, from just the set itself to how the heroes fall, but also how I am admittedly almost completely lost in some cases on where to start building the heroes from this set.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to the channel for your SuperSlam pre-release hangover edition. That's right, thanks for tuning in on your Flesh and Blood Monday coming out of the weekend. And yes, I do want to talk SuperSlam today because, as I mentioned in the intro, the set really exceeded my expectations of where I thought things, where I thought the set might land, right? I wasn't too sure where the set was going to be. And I think the set's good, right? That's the overall TLDR. And I wanted to spend today kind of talking about that and some of the pluses and the minuses. And I want to be very clear, this is not like an all everything is rosy. I want to talk the pluses and the minuses, right? That's what we're going to do. But like I said, I didn't have super, it's not that I was like negative on the set. It's just I was like, I don't know how this is going to land. And I think it's good. So pre-release, I hope that everyone did have not just the polls. Obviously the polls is, the thing, but I hope everyone had a good time. I think I actually had a really good time. So I made it to just the one, which was the one I TO'd. Just my schedule wasn't, kids and stuff, right? I was only able to make it to one which I TO'd, which means I didn't get to actually play in the pre-release. But what's interesting about that is when I'm TOing, from a certain point of view, I actually get to play more games than just the one per round. Because as I'm walking around and looking at things and looking in hands, I can kind of, again, from a certain point of view, I actually get to play many, many, many games in my head. So that was my big takeaway from the weekend was, we kind of had, because you get to see the world premiere on stream, and you kind of get an impression of things, but being able to look at both hands as they did, both people's hands and stuff as it developed. Obviously, I wasn't the one constructing the decks, right? But looking at the interactions and looking at the potential, and it also is just the way my brain works. When I do that, it also helps me kind of kickstart into, okay, how does this move? How do these set mechanics move from sealed or from limited into constructed? What are these heroes trying to do? And it's really part of just my process. So like I said, I walked away from that process in a pretty positive space from this set, as opposed to where, could have gone a different way, right? And probably the biggest thing for me this weekend is everybody had a really good time, or at least my impression was that everybody had a pretty good time. And I think that was in no small part due to the fact that this set feels really good to open, right? So with the super, and again, the super rares coming back was something everyone was like, it's like hairs on the back of your neck, like, oh, well, that's weird. Why are they doing that? What's going to be the impact of that? But the takeaway from this is functionally the Majestics are the same, right? As compared to a set that did not have supers, right? So if you go and look like a previous set, you basically get the same number of Majestics per box on average, and you get less rares, but you get S's. And it feels really, really, really good to open. Now, that comes with a caveat of if you are a completely money obsessed, value obsessed, EV obsessed type person, which is, to be clear, that is not a negative. That's completely reasonable for you to do that. If you're going to spend X dollars on a box, it's okay to expect, some sort of equivalent rate of, well, maybe not expect, but it's okay to want return on that value. It's okay. So I'm not hitting that at all, right? But what I'm saying here is if your success criteria is, oh, I spent $40 and I walked away with 30, so there I failed, then we're not talking on the same length, right? But my point is you open your 8-packs and the hits are pretty good. And there was a lot of people walking out of there saying, oh man, these pre-release kits are juiced, in a positive way, which, it's possible. It's possible they increase the hit rate. Highly unlikely, right? Highly unlikely. It's probably just that the set feels really freaking good to open because you have those S's in there. And even though from I grant from, in a month from now, Are supers, 80 cents? Probably, right? They're probably not all that different than rares in the grand scheme of things, right? In terms of like actual EV. But it still feels really good to open, especially on release weekend. So that's my TLDR for that part of it. I do think that played a huge role in people walking out of their pre-releases thinking like they hit, right? You get a red dot or two, you get some shinies, you get 3-4 purples, and you're feeling, hey, I've got some stuff. So I do think that was pretty good. Now, not one. There's two things on the negative. It's not really negative on the drawback. So this set, obviously, as we know, didn't have weapons. That was very relevant. I saw more games go to draw this weekend at our tournament than I had, seen. It was an above average number of games going to draw, right? I'm not going to sit and say some absolute statement like it's more or less, blah, blah, whatever. You get the point. And I think you understand why, like with the weapons and stuff like that. More games went to draw. And we also saw a lot of games get over in like 3 minutes. Well, that's being a little sarcastic. But again, you get the point. A couple 5-7 minute games, like that was a real thing. Obviously with people who knew what they were doing at that point, but still, or you get these big Lyeth blowout turns or whatever it may be. So, it is what it is, right? It's not every limited can be like the best limited ever. I do think after we, saw the potential here for the blowouts and stuff, I do think that, it probably is leaning a little bit of information as to like why they didn't necessarily want to do this at Worlds. But they want to feature LL too. So again, who knows on that one. The other thing though, and I think this one's probably a little less appreciated, maybe not appreciated, less recognized, is that this set has a very high build complexity. I kind of mentioned in the intro, like I've been trying to do like sit down and do decks and stuff, and like this is not an easy set with which to figure out how to do all the things. For example, right, reviled heroes want to have more health in order to do, on many of their cards, they want to have more health in order to get booed to do their thing, right? Or you get some other bonus for having higher health or whatever it may be, right? That's hard, right? Like in terms of like thinking about all of so like not only do you need to figure out your pitch ratio, not only do you need to figure out your correct like power include ratio because Lyeth has everything, or Kayo wants to go from 0 to 6 and you have to have 4 resources, or you want to get booed so you have the vigor so that you only need 3 resources. Like it's hard. Like there's a lot of moving parts in these decks, and trying to figure out the ratios is hard, right? And I had several people, when they were doing their limited building at our pre-release, they didn't know what to do. So, this set, you see that next bolt there, like this set's not one for, in my opinion, is not one for newbies. Right now, obviously pre-release is out of the gate. It's done. But like, I don't necessarily know that SuperSlam is, say it this way, SuperSlam is a return to the deathmatch arena, right? Heavy hitters, the first time we went to the deathmatch arena, zero question, heavy hitters was a phenomenal set for onboarding players, for bringing people in. It was straightforward. It was straightforward at the base level, but still very complex, had a fair number of like tricks and stuff you could do. This set's very complicated, and I do not think that this is a entry player friendly set, right, overall. And you can make all the, jokes you want about dumb tough nut here and just, block and swing. And maybe that is true. But just like all of the factors, I mean, and again, this is a me problem. Sometimes the way your brain works doesn't click necessarily with like the way things are. And that's okay. Everybody thinks different, and it's good to have different things out there, right? Because it challenges you. But I'm having a hard time figuring out where to go from a constructed standpoint on some of these decks, right? In terms of like filling it out and doing everything. So taking someone who's, relatively new, that's a lot to ask. So we're definitely going to be looking forward to the next constructed tournaments to see what the smart kids do. And I do think that you're going to see an awful lot of deck list, right? The Seagulls were going to be out trying to get those deck lists, because I think this is a hard set to build. For me, it is anyway, just with the way I think. So let me know below if you agree with that or not. But, you know, Flesh and Blood itself is a hard game. Deck building in Flesh and Blood is not easy. And I think that it's really hard to set, right? And then, of course, you know, you add the limited factor of like you're trying to read the cards and do everything. And like that's tough. So anyway, pre-release is passes, so that's not necessarily relevant anymore. But anyway, I think you get my point. So what I want to do now is talk the heroes. Because as I mentioned, you know, as I'm walking around and I'm watching things, I'm like, okay, I get it's to say that I don't understand the play lines is not true. I get the play lines, I get what the heroes are wanting to do, but trying to figure out how to get them there, that is the difficulty I was referring to above. So as I was walking around looking at the different interactions, the different play tricks that people could do, it really starts getting those cogs going. And I have to say, Laya seems pretty crazy. I think he's going to be the one with the most, I don't know. RKO looks pretty good too, but as does Pleiades. I mean, see, that's the thing. Like, I think there's 3 heroes in this set who can legitimately like do things. But Lyeth, with being able to like do the intimidate and just make a pile of token. I mean, sometimes Lyeth was coming in limited for like 12 to 15. Like that was happening, right? So you move into constructed. Whew, that's crazy. Now, obviously, Lyeth has a huge like problem statement in that like he just kind of like doesn't block, right? Like, but I guess if you have 5 cards and everything gives you pumps, and I don't know, he seems to me like the one that's going to come out really well. RKO, right, is reviled KO. I do like RKO. That's what I've seen several people in the community calling him that. I like that. I like RKO. He seems really hot to me. He's not the hero I thought I was going to. To be clear, I am still Team Tough Nut. I am. I'm still going to work on Tough Nut. But RKO seems really interesting. But he's really hard. That's what I've been trying to, like, him in particular is the one I've been trying to build. It's like, how do you get the 0/1s? Like, if you want to do, like, say, like, the Vipox Meeps thing, which I don't know is the right play or not, but he's very difficult to have, because in most cases, he has to have more health, like I referred to, in order to get, you know, for his cards to come in, they want more health to get booed. He seems like he has a lot of potential, but again, he has to be ahead. But man, the what RKO threatens is pretty crazy. So he seems really good. And then of course you've got, you know, the poster child for the set, quite literally, which is Pleiades. And the stackable suspenses is pretty cool. So I don't know how that's going to end up flushing out in, obviously her armory deck's really fun, right? And they've done the thing, and she's super attractive as a hero. Well, I mean, both, but she's super attractive as a hero just because of like the whole package, and it, like, well done on that. And this stackable like multi-turn aura thing is like pretty cool. Obviously, the ceiling on that is also pretty high, right? But I think this one's really neat. And to be able to see how the smart kids figured this one out, or if they go somewhere else, is going to be very interesting. Now, I put poor dumb Tough Nut. He seems fine. I think he's fine. Like, I don't think he's going to be making waves. I think the 3 health is too much of a liability. Look, we talked in previous episode, you know, there is the rock thing. I think a lot of people are going to have fun with that. I don't think the rock build is going to make super waves, like within like the grand scheme of things. I do think the club build is his best shot. But if I am comparing him to what the others can do, and again, remember, this is through a limited lens, right? But like, just take Lyeth into him, intimidate. And like from the rock standpoint, right? Like, let's say he is trying to rock and you intimidate. Now he can't swing rock because you've got a card in your hand. It just seems too, it's not going to work, right? In the grand scheme of things. It's going to be super cool, fun to play. but it's not going to ultimately work. So though that's where the four sit. Now let's go ahead and talk the other elephant in the room. Let's go back to heavy hitters Kayo, armed Kayo, that I call him. He seems pretty insane to me right now. Like, he picked up some pretty decent cards, right? So like the name's escaping right now because it's still new, right? But the new Swing Big that gets a -1 on the 6+ block, that card's really, really, really good. Like, the value on that card, because if they throw to it and they block and they cover, you just got 2 big cards out of their hand. So like, sure, why not? He looks really scary. Got a lot of value. Some of the blue 6s he picked up are really good. Specifically the names, I'm sorry. The 1/5 blue that he has is also really good. Oh no, so it's a 3/5. Sorry, it's a 3/5. Well, like, what isn't, right? But it's when you block with a 6+, you get, I mean, perfect. Throw that in there, right? It's a super rare. Shouldn't be that hard to get. Go get it, right? I think Arm KO looks really, 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 really strong out of this. And I realize he's not SuperSlam, but he picked up this stuff. So I do think, and remember, he's aggro. He's very straightforward. We have almost 1.75 years-ish of knowledge on armed KO out there. I think he's going to come out swinging literally and figuratively, in the first couple weekends. But I'm really excited to see where these new heroes go. Now, we always know how this goes on new sets, right? Is when the smart kids come out, a lot of people don't know how to play against them, so they get kind of that, hit the ground running type of advantage that may or may not last for 2-3 weeks while the meta adjusts. But I do think armed KO is probably here to stay. I think long-term, people are going to figure out how to abuse Lyeth. I think that's where my head goes, is just with all these little micro interactions that pay dividends for you with Lyeth, and like the fact that the extra card increases your probability of having said interaction. I think Lyeth is going to be one that we need to watch going forward. So anyway, that is my take. Look, like I said, coming in here, I didn't know where SuperSlam was going to lie. I wasn't super optimistic. Like, I didn't think it was going to be bad, but I was like, I don't know like how good of a set it's going to be. I'm pretty pleased. I think there's a lot of really good design in here. And like I said, I think a lot of the design is like over my head in terms of like how these heroes are supposed to work. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing either, right? To my point in the middle about not necessarily being, again, right now, I don't believe that this is a very new player friendly set. Not everything has to be very clear, right? And that's not negative feedback. It's just the truth, right? If you've got somebody who's relatively new, trying to get them in on this, I don't necessarily know that this is the right set unless they just want to, do tough nut. And again, Pleiades is like, Pleiades seems like straightforward enough that like most people who've been in gaming or something, I think, can figure it out. But unless they're just like straight net decking lists, I think it's going to be a challenge on this one, at least for the short term. So anyway, that's my thoughts for, like I said, pre-release hangover weekend, hangover Monday. So anyway, let me know what you're thinking. Hopefully you were typing as we went. And thank you all for joining. Of course, my friends, go Commando.